Today's dangers are different, though no less grave. The power to destroy life on a catastrophic scale now risks falling into the hands of terrorists.
Hungry for secrets.
Our diplomats are doing what diplomats do around the world every day, which is build relationships, negotiate, advance our interests, and work to find common solutions to complex problems. That's what they do.
But according to documents released by WikiLeaks, in 2009, U.S. diplomats around the world were in fact directed to gather sci-fi type details, including facial images, fingerprints, iris scans, and even DNA from UN officials. Among the targeted, ambassadors from Russia, China, France, and Britain, even Secretary General Ban Ki-moon.
Many people didn't understand what that meant. Does that mean that diplomats do spying on the side?
The order of operation allegedly came from U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. And as the U.S. assumes the presidency of the Security Council today,
Good afternoon.
these revelations will probably be seen as an undesirable distraction, but little more it seems. Only Belgium openly criticized Washington for mixing diplomatic work and outright espionage.
The United Nations is not in a position to comment on the authenticity of the document purporting to request information gathering activities.
Official reaction from the UN itself only went as far as reminding member states that international treaties prohibit spying at the UN.
Their response has been so weak to being spied on by the U.S., in large part because the U.S. is just, it's the behemoth of the UN. They pay a lot of the bills, but they also have the ability to veto a second term for Ban Ki-moon.
The U.S. is the UN's fattest financier, set to contribute more than $2.5 billion in 2011. And this is not the first time the U.S. has been caught spying. Back in 2003, in the lead up to the invasion of Iraq, the National Security Agency was reportedly conducting a secret surveillance operation providing intelligence on the voting intentions of UN members. This time around, diplomats were asked to provide information on computer upgrades, security measures, passwords, and personal encryption keys of their UN colleagues. The exhausting level of details allegedly demanded about top U.S. officials has not only left the U.S. red-faced, but it's also caused some to question whether Washington was ultimately laying the groundwork for surveillance or hacking operations here at the World Body headquarters.
For governments, they're constantly talking about democracy, transparency, important, blah, blah, blah in the world, and say that they're invading all sorts of countries in order to promote this new democratic spirit, and then they behave this way. I'm sorry, but I think it's time for some outrage.
While Washington repeatedly claims to be rebuilding and repairing relations around the world, the image of the U.S. as Big Brother watching at the UN may be irreparable.
This is a targeted, focused effort at people who are on a list of active terrorists who are trying to go in and harm Americans, hit American facilities, American bases, and so on. So obviously a lot of these strikes have been in the Fatah and going after al-Qaeda suspects who are up in very tough terrain along the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. For us to be able to get them in another way would involve probably a lot more intrusive military actions than the one that we're already engaged in.
Defend his secret kill list next week at the foreign policy debate.
Well, look, this president has taken the fight to al-Qaeda.
Does that justify a kill list?
When there are people that are trying to harm us and have pledged to bring terror to these shores, we've taken that fight to them.
Without due process of law?
We have taken that fight to them.
Without a court of law? Illegally against the Geneva Convention?
I think I know where you are on this issue. I'm just trying to answer your questions without you doing it. But if you want to answer my question,
I'm just trying to deal with the spin.
Well, no, actually, you're just answering my question. So I'll go to somebody who might want to listen.
Anything else? How will he defend a kill list?
Again, I think he is happy to talk about taking a fight to Al Qaeda, making sure that those who have pledged to do harm to people in this country and bring terror to our shores, what we have to do to make sure that doesn't.
Anwar al-Awlaki was put on the kill list. The administration has acknowledged it to the press anonymously, and we did kill him. We hit him with a drone strike, but in a separate drone strike, we also killed his 16-year-old son. Now, he was not on a kill list. The government has never told us why we killed him, whether it was a mistake or if they intended to kill him. They also killed his young cousin as well. These were kids. He had gone to go find his dad. And now his dad was up to no good, according to our information, right? But he's just a 16-year-old kid trying to find his dad. Doesn't know where he went, and he's looking for him, right? And then, but his dad had been killed 2 weeks earlier. So what happened? He was saying goodbye to his cousin, and they were having dinner, and he was about to go back home to the United States of America, where he's an American citizen, when they dropped a drone bomb and they killed him all. Now, Gibbs is asked about that, and listen to this honestly heinous answer.
Do you think that the killing of Anwar al-Awlaki's 16-year-old son, who is an American citizen, is justifiable?
I'm not going to get into Anwar al-Awlaki's son. I know that Anwar al-Awlaki renounced his citizenship.
His son was still an American citizen.
Did great harm to people in this country. And was a regional Al Qaeda commander, hoping to inflict harm and destruction on people that share his religion and others in this country. And
that's an American citizen that's being targeted without due process of law, without trial, and he's underage. He's a minor.
I would suggest that you should have a far more responsible father if they're truly concerned about the well-being of their children. I don't think becoming an Al Qaeda jihadist terrorist is the best way to go about doing your business.
Now, look, I told you it's a hard question.
Make sure that people understand actually drones have not caused a huge number of civilian casualties. For the most part, they have been very precise, precision strikes against Al Qaeda and their affiliates. And we are very careful in terms of how it's been applied. So I think that there's this perception somehow that we're just sending in a whole bunch of strikes willy-nilly. This is a targeted, focused effort.
So for the first time, President Obama actually talking about these strikes, saying not too many people are killed, but it goes a little deeper than this. And I want to take a look at some actual numbers here that the president didn't mention. This is according to a report put together by the Bureau of Investigative Journalism. Between 2,000 and 3,000 people have been killed by drones in Pakistan. And of those, as many as 780 are civilians. 175 have been children. And of the 312 drone strikes that have taken place, President Obama has issued 260 of them.
I am the son of an oil man. I lived overseas all of my life. I was very fortunate in both having several graduate degrees and being a Marine Corps infantry officer, Marine Corps intelligence officer, and then a clandestine intelligence case officer. I've programmed imagery satellites. I've helped steal signals code books. I've done counterintelligence. I'm basically intimately familiar with the way in which the U.S. government does or does not do the craft of intelligence.
What you need to know is I'm a spy saying spying doesn't work. It's costing you $1.2 billion a week to produce the president's daily brief for a guy that can't read. People don't realize this. Apart from the fact that NSA is 1950s mindsets with 1970s technologies, SCIC completely screwed up Trailblazer, Echelon is baloney. 80% of your signals intelligence comes from analysis of patterns. So you don't need to violate privacy. All you need to know is that Schmuckhead is calling Afghanistan once a week. General Shinseki knew exactly what was needed to make Iraq go right, and Paul Wolfowitz lied to Congress and said they'll receive us like liberators and stuff. If I had been General Shinseki, I would have grabbed Wolfowitz by the neck and thrown him down the steps of Capitol Hill. You don't let people lie like that. It's unprofessional to confuse loyalty with integrity, and we have had a failure of generalship in America. Our generals have been too eager to keep their stars and not eager enough to think for themselves and uphold the Constitution. Smedley Butler, the highest decorated Marine, said, war is a racket. War is a racket. War is a racket, and the only reason it's happening is because the American public is lethargic. Blog that.
The Veterans for Peace, which start with World War II veterans all the way to the present Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, are making a powerful statement for the rule of law, for advocating peace, for getting out of Afghanistan and Iraq. If you took a poll of the soldiers in Afghanistan, as a poll was taken in Iraq in January 2005, the majority would say, let's get out of here. It's a quagmire. All we're doing are creating new enemies, slaughtering innocents, spending huge amounts of money that can be spent back home to create jobs, and violating our constitutional processes. You know, let's be very forthright, Juan. George W. Bush and Cheney committed war crimes. They had surveillance of Americans illegally. They unconstitutionally pursued wars in Asia. They slaughtered innocents, and they were considered war criminals by many people, including Republican former Judge Andrew Napolitano, author of 4 books on the Constitution, and Republican Bruce Fein. Now, Barack Obama is committing the same crimes, in fact, worse ones in Afghanistan. And innocents are being slaughtered. We're creating more enemies. He's violating international law. He is not constitutionally authorized to do what he's doing. He's using state secrets. He's engaging in illegal surveillance. The CIA is running wild without any kind of circumscribed legal standards or disclosure.
We have just a few seconds.
Why don't we say what's on the minds of many legal experts? That the Obama administration is committing war crimes, and if Bush should have been impeached, Obama should be impeached.